For today's lecture, I'd like to discuss briefly the two texts for today that address men's and women's soccer in the US, respectively. Gary Hopkins' Star-Spangled Soccer and Jerry Longman's The Girls of Summer. It strikes me that in a way, the subject matter of these lectures has actually come full circle. I began the first one wondering whether teaching a soccer course at OU was an act of subversion. And here I am, in the penultimate lecture, musing again on the future of this alien sport in the middle of American football territory. As you read Gary Hopkins' Star-Spangled Soccer, which was published in 2010, you will, like me, wonder if Hopkins would have been quite so optimistic about the future of the sport in the US if he had known that the US would not receive the World Cup in either 2018 or 2022. In fact, FIFA ended up granting these two tournaments, 2018 and 2022, to Russia and Qatar, respectively, under circumstances that struck many both within and outside the process as highly dubious and probably corrupt. Nevertheless, I do think Hopkins makes a good case for general optimism concerning the expansion of soccer in the US, whether it's the huge increase in ticket sales, the increased access to games via channels such as Fox Soccer or ESPN or even occasionally broadcast networks, or the demographic rise in a traditionally soccer-obsessed Hispanic population. Soccer seems to have a secure foothold in the US for the foreseeable future. Those of you who are writing about the future of the game in this country can consider whether you are for or against the proposals made by Hopkins in his final chapter on the future of the sport. Jerry Longman's 2000 book on the US Women's World Cup winning team, The Girls of Summer, is written in a very different style from the business-oriented language of Hopkins' book. In fact, Longman makes a strenuous effort in the chapters that you have read for today to dramatise a penalty shootout, the result of which we, as readers, already know. The US won. In fact, you can see the YouTube video of the US winning the penalty shootout against China in the Women's World Cup final of 1999 on our website. Now, consider the fact that she describes the moments that Longman, the author of The Girls of Summer, describes the moments just before the penalty shootout in the introductory chapter, then moves backwards in time for most of the book to describe how the US women's team got to that point. She then returns to the penalty shootout and its aftermath in the penultimate and final chapter, which are part of your reading. Now, this dramatic hiatus, she begins with the moments just before the penalty shootout, and she only comes back to the penalty shootout at the very end of the book. This dramatic hiatus serves to recreate some of the dramatic tension associated with sudden death penalty kicks. And yet, like Hopkins, I think Longman poses some very important questions about the future of the women's game. In her analysis of the response to Brandi Chastain's famous removal of her shirt in celebration, the question of gender inevitably arises, but also that of corporate sponsorship, and apparently Chastain's sports bra had a Nike logo on it, and some commentators wonder whether this was a conspiracy by Nike to get their logo onto TV by any means necessary. Unlikely, I feel. The goalkeeper, Brianna Scurry, was at the centre of two controversies. On the one hand, she was accused of cheating by moving prematurely during the penalty kicks, which is something that I think most goalkeepers are guilty of. It kind of evens up the process, because saving a penalty is a very, very difficult undertaking. And on the other hand, it was alleged that TV cameras cut away from her receiving the gold medal to focus on Mia Hamm, because Scurry was the only African American on the team. In this way, Longman uses this important moment in the history of women's sports to examine issues of gender and ethnicity. It's particularly disappointing to read the final chapter of Longman's book and to hear the account of the shoddy treatment of the women's team by the US Soccer Federation after their historic win against China. Finally, I think Longman has a long historical view of this triumph by the women's soccer team, because she repeatedly refers to the law Title IX. This is Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, which ensures that boys and girls at school, and men and women at college, receive equal funding with regard to sporting and athletic activities. Now, I don't think it's any coincidence that a generation after the passage of this Act, the US women's sports team triumphantly captures the attention of the home population and that of the wider world. Thanks very much.